So, I'm not gonna lie, there were a lot of times where I just gave in to whatever I felt like, and my basis for like committing to things and my basis for doing challenging things was very low. And it didn't take a lot for me to kind of just get away from whatever I was doing if it was challenging. Like if it was homework when I was younger, if any type of like pain and discomfort I felt, I was not doing that. I did not want to feel any type of pain. And so what I've learned is that this feeling of pain and this feeling of like not wanting to do the work, this feeling of dread, this feeling of like discomfort, it's just like it doesn't even matter anymore. You know, like you don't have to necessarily listen to these feelings. I mean, you can listen to them. However, you can start to understand why they're there, and you can understand why your mind is trying to actually take you away from the work. And you can understand that you don't have to listen to your mind when it's trying to take you away from the work. So I'm going to talk to you today about how to start to enjoy the work so much that it feels as easy as TikTok. You know that feeling you get when you're scrolling through TikTok? You're going to feel the same way when you're doing hard work now. Imagine that. So what I've been realizing lately is that when you try to do something you don't feel like doing, your mind is trying to talk you out of it. It's trying to like give you every out that's like possible. Like, should I really be doing this? Or like, do I really want to approach that girl? Or do I really want to like do this homework tonight? Like maybe I could just do it tomorrow. And it's trying to give you every out possible. The key is to understand that just because your mind is telling you that, like that, those conversations that you're having and thoughts that you're having are not even you. Like they're just your ego mind. And what you have to realize is that there is a separation from you and your ego mind. And the reason it's there, or at least from what I've learned so far, is we don't like pain. We don't like doing uncomfortable things. And so just imagine any like uncomfortable thing, like taking a cold shower, or like going to work every day, or like talking to a new person, or getting out of your comfort zone. We don't like these situations because they're painful. And naturally, we have this like pain avoidance. And so because of that, anytime you get close to these situations, anytime you get close to meeting a new person, anytime you get close to doing work when you don't feel like it, the closer you get, the more your ego mind is trying to pull you away from it. It's like, do you really want to do this? Are you sure this is the right thing? Like, you just have to start to become aware of this process and why it's doing it, or why your ego mind is trying to give you these outs. And it's because of the pain. And so understanding this process is in an outside perspective is key. Like you have to realize that you are not that mind that's saying maybe you shouldn't do this. Maybe it's okay if you don't do the work today. Like you have to realize that that's just your ego and it's your thoughts. And so like I've had that understanding lately, and it's been key in helping me do the work when I don't feel like it. It's been helping me stay more consistent lately, because now anytime those thoughts come up, I'm just more aware of why they're coming up. It's because it's trying to get me away from an uncomfortable situation. And so imagine if we can just start to like go through any uncomfortable situation anytime we want to. And in fact, these uncomfortable situations will feel as good as TikTok, as scrolling through TikTok. The way that this happens is by you recognizing like the thoughts that are trying to pull you away. And so that's a big thing that I've learned lately. So I just wanted to paint that picture. It's that just because your mind is telling you these things and trying to get you away from the work, it doesn't mean that that's actually you. You are not that mind that's telling you these things, you're actually different from that, and you have the power of choice to choose to listen to that or not. And so I just wanted to drive that point in. And then also I wanted to give you some actual tactical ways to, like, when you are working or doing something challenging, I wanted to give you some ways that you can actually, like, become more comfortable in the pain, or become more comfortable doing the hard work consistently. And so the first way is to fall in love with the pain, fall in love with the process. And I know it sounds all motivational and like David Goggins like, but it actually is true. Like, if you can start to fall in love with the hard work, fall in love with doing challenging things, then it just becomes easier and it becomes consistent, and like your base level of doing challenging things rises. And something interesting, I was talking to someone yesterday and he brought up this point about an Andrew Huberman podcast. And in this podcast, he mentioned that when you do challenging things, or when you do things when you don't feel like it, you're actually building this muscle of willpower. Like, there's an actual, like, muscle in your mind that's growing and developing every time you do something when you don't feel like it. And there is measurable data that shows that this muscle is growing when you do something when you don't feel like it. And so falling in love with the work helps you have that consistency of doing something when you don't feel like it. It will really help you get the work done, and it will help you make the work feel as good as TikTok. And so another way to make the work feel as good as TikTok is to get in the flow state. And at least some ways that I have found to help me get in the flow state are becoming more aware of my thoughts, first of all, and then also simply just being more grounded in what I'm doing and being more engaged in what I'm doing. A key is to forget about time. Like, if you have time in your focus and you're trying to, like, rush something, or you're trying to cram something in, or like time is in your mind somewhere, that creates a separation from the present moment. But if time is totally out of your mind and you're just doing what you're doing, then you're more in a flow state, and you're less anxious, and you're more aware of your thoughts. So yeah, that's a main thing to get in a flow state. And then also to get in a flow state, some ways that I practice it is when I'm working, is I just become more aware of my body. Like, if I'm sitting at my desk, I'll, like, feel the gravity of my body on my chair, and I'm focusing on that. Or if I'm, like, typing, I'll hear the sound of the keyboard, and I'll feel the sensation of my fingers, like, typing on the keyboard. And it just gets you more in your body and into what you're doing and engaged with what you're doing. Or if I'm making a YouTube video like I am right now, I will focus more on what I'm, like, the sensation of my voice when I'm talking. I'll focus more on, like, just the sensations in the present moment. And that will help you get in a flow state more often. And then, yeah, like, whether you feel like doing the work or not kind of just dissipates. Like, that doesn't even really matter when you're in a flow state. And so another thing is, I know I mentioned falling in love with the hard work, but I just wanted to give this visualization if you're, like, entrepreneurial minded. But I watched a video from Sam Ovens yesterday, and he mentioned building a moat around his product or service. And what he means by this is, a moat is a body of water around a castle. And so it's like a defense around the castle. And so he wanted to build his product or service so good that no one can touch his product or service. Like, it has a moat around it. And so he had a why for building his product or service so good. And that why carried him to do the hard work, even when he didn't feel like it. Like, whether he felt like it or not was not even a question. It was the fact that he needed to build a product or service that no one could touch. And so having a why that will carry you through like the tough times is important. And so that's what I'm working on right now for me is finding a why that's greater than me, like my own money, my own pleasure, and my own joy. I'm trying to find a why that revolves around other people. If I can actually help other people, then me is not even in the picture of me doing the work, if that makes sense. Like, my own feelings and my own, like, it's not even in the question of whether you do the work or not when you're doing work for other people, if that makes sense. And so have a good why. And also, like, your why could be knowing that no one else is doing this. Like, that's what Sam Ovens talked about. He said he got joy out of knowing that he was the only one that was building a product or service like that. Like, who else is doing this? And he made the best product or service in his industry or in his market. And so you can even get that as your reason, as your why. You could want to be the only one doing what you're doing, and it will give you that sense of like competitiveness. So that would be a good why. So yeah, these are just a couple things that you can do to start to make the work feel as good as TikTok. And the question of whether you feel like doing the work or not doesn't even come into play anymore. So hopefully these visualizations or examples can help a little bit. They're things that I've been working on. And the big thing is my why. My why is the thing that's going to carry me through doing the work, whether I feel like it or not. And so, yeah, hopefully these helped. I just started a new free school community, and it's a place you can go and start networking with ambitious people who are looking to gain control of their days and really maximize their time. So if you're interested in that, you can check out the link in the description. And yeah, if you got some value out of this, hit that subscribe button, and I hope to see you around for the next videos. Thank you.